me beating myself up isn't actually helping anybody that I say I care about. Like me, like beating myself up, I'm just being like a victim in a tuxedo. Like I'm just being like a fancy version of a victim because I'm just beating myself up, but not really like doing all the things I need to do. So it's like I screwed up, I've hurt people. I need to do my best to make things right and like get up and go.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today my guest is none other than Wayne Salmans, the business coach extraordinaire. Am I saying that last name right?
You actually nailed it. That was great.
I love it. And when I say extraordinaire, I have heard your name over and over again in real estate circles, and most recently, my own company, some of our top producers. And when I say top producers, I don't just mean like you're coaching realtors and real producer publishers that, you know, are trying to make it. It's my top people. And you were the common thread amongst all of them. So kudos to you. You're doing something right. And I'm excited to dig in with you. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thank you for having me. Same thing. You're the common thread in their success. It's pretty cool.
Well, I met you in Dallas a few weeks ago at what I believe is the largest real producers event to date nationally, 750 people at an awards banquet. Pretty phenomenal amongst 3 or 4 of those publications in Dallas. But that's where you're currently at, right? But you got your start in Alaska. A lot of our commonality, the people is from Alaska. It's kind of funny how that works. But is that where you started your real estate career, was Alaska?
It is in the cold, cold north. Yes.
It's a funny market, man. Like Devin, our publisher up there, literally has to fly to different parts of her territory just to see the people who are getting the magazine.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's such. I remember door knocking and wearing long-legged underwear underneath my suit, and looking back, I'm just like, what was good? It's such a weird world. Yes. Oh, it was amazing.
Well, now you're in a much warmer climate, and what's cool about this day and age is everyone knows that Zoom makes it so that you can coach people all around the world if you wanted to. Do you have clients in other countries or just the U.S.?
Dude, we do. We have clients in Australia, Canada, yeah, all over. So, and most of our teams all over the world too. So our team, my staff works in Guatemala and Philippines and all over. It's pretty fun.
Is it all real estate based?
No, so about 60% real estate, and then we do doctors, lawyers, manufacturers, everybody else.
Well, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Cindy Bell, and she was telling me she was really excited to hear this episode when I told her you were going to be on, because she wants you to share how this whole thing began, your transition from selling houses and knocking on doors to now teaching people the ins and outs of a high-powered business. But it didn't start with sunshine and rainbows for you.
No, not at all. I mean, even real estate didn't start easy for me. I was a slow learner. I mean, I was willing to work hard, but it took me a minute to get up and going. And then, you know, it's interesting, and probably what she's referring to, you know, is I think sometimes from the outside it looks so good, and then like there's like what's actually going on, you know. And years ago, and I think it was like maybe 14, 15 years ago at this point. But I remember the outside looked great, right? I was like selling houses. I had just won like the 30 Under 30 award for Realtor Magazine. Like I was kicking butt, like everything looked good, right? I was married, 2.5 kids, like, you know, like picture perfect from the outside, right? And yet like on the inside, like stuff was not working out. And like, if you ever had that moment where like you're just not congruent, right? Like I didn't believe I was worth it. I didn't believe that I had value. Like everything was messed up, and to the point where I literally like nailed rock bottom. I had an affair. I screwed up my life. I lost my business. Like I did everything you could to kind of screw up your life. To the point where I remember laying on a floor in a vacant building in Alaska, and getting ready to take my life. And I was laying there, and I think up until that point, like I never really understood why someone would commit suicide. I probably would have said that was like selfish. Like, why would somebody do that? And yet at that moment in my life, like I truly believed that like my kids would be better off if I checked out. Like I was like, I truly believe like, man, the world, my kids, everybody else is better off if I just get out, just check out and you know, get out of the way. And I remember I'm laying there, and I feel like I had lost everything. no value, no nothing. And I'm getting ready to end my life. And what hits me is it sounds a little weird to say now, but what hits me is like, nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody's going to show up. Like me, it didn't mean people didn't love me or care about me. It's just like
almost hoping that you didn't have to be
yes,
the person who makes the hard decision to save
yes,
yourself, like hoping someone just
yeah.
comes in and just stops you, but it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you either like check out or like you got to be the hero. Like
Yeah.
you got to be the one saving. And like at that moment, I was like, okay, maybe I could like try. You know what I mean? And even if it takes like 20 years to get back up, maybe it'd be worth it. And like just one day at a time. But like that was a big moment for me. And at that moment, what I realized was like if I can get back up, I'm gonna spend a whole lot of my life helping other people like do the same thing, like get back up, help them, get their lives in a way that they're really proud of. And it took a journey, but that led me to going to teach bowls and be a coach and everything else, and really get focused in on what I'm put here to do.
So that's pretty dark, and we've already explained what happened at the end of the story, or at least where you currently reside. So obviously figured it out, but what was the process? I mean, imagine once you decided, hey, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna go through with this, I'm gonna figure this out. How long was the process before which you got back on your feet? I mean, imagine it wasn't the next day.
No, it wasn't. No, and I think it took a couple of years for me to really like feel like I kind of had quote unquote got back up.
Mm-hmm.
And yet like my mantra was like just do the next right thing.
Mm.
And I remember a coach told me that like just do the next right thing, and I couldn't always figure out like the next 15 pieces, or the next 15 steps, but like just do the next right thing, just do the next right thing, and like that was kind of my mantra that got me through a lot of like just do the next right thing, just do the next right thing, and kept stacking those, and yeah, it kept working. Another thing that somebody told me was they said, when you go through times like that, like there's a gift you get that you can only get by going through like those deep, dark moments. You know what I mean? You don't really wish on anybody else, but like you're grateful for what you learned during there. And I had a therapist who told me like the most screwed up people that have experienced the most pain usually help the most people. And I was like, awesome. I'm going to change the world. Here we go. Yeah. So if all you got to do is like be screwed up and make some mistakes, like I'm in. So,
man, yeah. Seems like the bar's set low, but I believe that. I agree with that. Yeah. That's definitely. So you said the next right thing. What was the next right thing for you in that moment to get your footing?
Yeah. And for me, it was like, first off, acknowledge, this was a huge one actually for me. This is a big, big realization. Stop beating myself up, which I know sounds really weird, but like I realized I was beating myself up, but I was actually feeling, it was almost like I felt good by beating myself up. Like if I paid enough pittance, right? If I made myself feel bad enough. But then I woke up and I was like, me beating myself up isn't actually helping anybody that I say I care about. Like me, like beating myself up, I'm just being like a victim in a tuxedo. Like I'm just being like a fancy version of a victim because I'm just beating myself up, but not really like doing all the things I need to do. So it's like I screwed up, I've hurt people. I need to do my best to make things right, and like get up and go. Like do the next thing, make the next call, do the next thing. So like that was for me one of those big moments in there.
We talk a lot. We run a monthly masterclass here in Indy, and one of the things we do a prep call, and we were talking about, I always say, hey, we want to leave them with hope. And sometimes that confuses people. In this market, it doesn't, because people are like, yeah, we need hope because this market sucks. But I created that question when the market was hot. And I said that the reason why we always want to end with that is you have no idea what people are going through. I know millionaires that are the saddest people that go home to nothing, that go home to emptiness. And so within real estate, especially, because most of us, at least a lot of realtors I've heard, don't actually aspire to be realtors, didn't aspire to own their own, but maybe they did, but they did not that way. And so they get into it and the grind gets to them. And it's even worse when they start to see the success and make a ton of money because they think that was the answer, and it's truly not. So hope, when I wrote that question, is, listen, if you're sitting in this audience, do you have it all together, or could you grow in something? Could you grow in your business, in your personal life, in your work-life balance, just to name a few? I imagine with your coaching, I asked you before the show, what's the common thread of things that you're seeing amongst the people that you're coaching? And I that could be dictated by what's going on in politics, the world, wars, or even just the market here. What are some of those common threads that you're seeing that people need right now?
Man, I think you're so spot on. And it reminds me of a quote that's like, there's no such thing as lazy people, just people with people that don't have a picture of the future being better. And I think there's so many people that are hopeless. I mean, I think you nailed it. I think right now people are some of the common threads, and you see this all the time. Like people are a little they're struggling right now. They're a little tilted, right? There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things they can't control. And when you focus on things you can't control, when you focus on the unknowns, like you start getting anxiety, you start getting, all this other stuff going on. So for a lot of us and this is an interesting question that I'm asking a lot of my clients right now. Like, what are you pretending not to know? Like, where are you pretending to be confused, right? Because they're like, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, right? And they're laughing because you and I have these coaching calls all day long, right? They're like, man, I just don't know what to do. And you're like, or do you do? You know what I mean? Like you might, you know what I mean, right? But they're like, man, I just don't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, it's kind of calling them out on their stuff. And you're like, you kind of do, right? But like, they don't want to go back and do some of the hard stuff. They're pretending to be confused. Yeah. They're like, I should, instead of like having some clear commitment. So that's the biggest thing. It's just like, we got to get out of like resentment and resistance. And I think there's a lot of people that are in resentment and resistance right now. Like they're resenting the market or interest rates or the war or whatever it is. And then they're like resisting doing what like they need to do. And it's like, get simple, double down. It's going to take more work. And yeah. What's your other options?
When I have a high performer that is acting the way you say, where they don't have the answers and they're trying to figure it out, one of my favorite questions to ask them is if I'll name someone else on the team. I'll say, if Sally came up to you and asked the same question, what would you tell them?
Yes.
And they always figure it, almost every single time they figure out, I tell Sally to get off her butt and just go work,
Yeah.
Be like, okay, so in this scenario, who do you think is Sally? And it doesn't take long for them to realize. And especially the high performers, what I love about coaching them is regardless of how much whatever's going on around them, very rarely do they stay on the floor. Very rarely do they just, continue to come in with excuses. If they truly are a high performer, those are the people that are a pleasure to coach. And I think about some of the people on your sheet. Those are definitely those people. But what are some scenarios that you find are a little bit more difficult to coach through than others?
Man, I think right now some of the tough scenarios I think we're having, you're probably having, my guess is, and I'd love your take on this. I'm seeing a lot of people that are struggling to have tough conversations, right? So like the one you and I are just talking about is that kind of tough conversation with themselves. But the other one is, I think, tough conversations with their team members. So I think right now is like, you got to look your team in the eye, especially a lot of these people that are leading real estate teams or teams like you are, whatever it is, like look people in the eye and go like, not everybody's going to make it. Like, this is like, here's the mountain we're going to take. Like, it's worth it. Like, it's going to be amazing, but like, it's not for everybody. And like, I get that they have to sit on a team and kind of go like, man, if this is not, like, I get this isn't really what you signed up for. Like, this is different than we thought it was going to be. Like, you're going to have to work harder. It's going to be tough. You're going to get banged up. Like, it's going to be awesome, but here's what it's going to take. And if you're willing to do that, that's awesome. Let's go. If you're not, that doesn't make you bad, but like, you're not a good fit for where we're headed and the team is going to take. And I think,
well, and you know what, that's a positive, either way, that's a positive thing. Right. So like if you're having that conversation and real estate's not for you, everyone just assumes that that's like a negative thing. Listen, if real estate's not for you, then go, like, great, like find the next thing that is for you. This is probably the first step into like what's actually going to make you happy, fulfilled in a career. So like when I spoke in Dallas, ahead of time, they brought in all the nominees an hour before the event. And I gave a 5-minute message. And what I told them is what's exciting about what we're about to see in the market. Now, I'm not a realtor, right? So I'm not an expert here, but I'm a good listener. And what I think is going to happen, what we're starting to see happen, is that anyone who got into the real estate industry that wanted to sell their house or sell their mom's house, that's not happening anymore. So now all those listings are going back in the market because the houses still need to sell. And those are going to go to the top performers, the ones that, withstood all these recessions, including like the one that we've seen in the last 6 months or even a year. And now if you stood strong and you want to come out on the other side, cool. If you're at your wit's end, then you're getting out and everybody wins. And if you don't have that hard conversation or you don't make that decision, that's when you lose. So that's pretty interesting. I'd be interested to see 6 months from now, all those hard conversations, where those people are at.
So were you always good at tough conversations, or is that something you had to get better at? Like, how do you coach people to get great at those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's always good at it. I think there's a certain tolerance that people have to have them, but that doesn't make them good at it. Like I didn't mind having the tough conversations, but maybe like my empathy was so low that I wasn't good at those tough conversations. Right. So I just came off as mean, like, hey, you need to get out of this industry. Like, okay. Like, I don't know if that's the right answer or the way to do it. But yeah, I think it's probably easier to teach someone how to have that empathy and coach them on how to have those conversations than it is someone who is scared to have those conversations and teaching them but I think there's hope for everybody. I mean, if you listen, I always said, would you rather, I don't know where I heard this, but would you rather be right or happy? It's like a marriage tip, right? Would you rather be right or happy? But you can apply that to like a client relationship or coaching relationship. Whereas like if you have a client that is missing calls with you or not getting their work back, like not getting whatever, and you are the right one, you are in the right, you constantly are taking time out of your day to contact this person, coach them through this, and you want to be right in saying, whatever it is that you're going to say, but happiness at the end of the day is we've moved on from this. They're a happy paying client. They're going to renew, like in publishing world, they're going to renew. They're going to be a long-term client. Well, at the end of the day, I'd rather that be the case scenario. So can you get through this couple day span where you can't reach this guy or he's being mean or not unfair or whatever? And so like, I think realtors especially are at the center of those kinds of conversations.
Well, and I would bet a huge piece of your success has been your willingness to have tough conversations, right? Like I think I don't think you would be doing what you're doing if you hadn't gotten better and better at those, right? Like I think it's such a huge, and that's one of the skills I think that so many people are missing right now, whether they're leading whatever business it is, right? It's like their ability to have tough, great conversations with their clients, with their staff, with themselves. Like it's one of the biggest skills that I think people are missing right now. And they think it's supposed to be a talent. And it's like, I don't really think it's a talent. I think it's something you learn. Like it's a skill most of us have to learn. Like most people are not naturally good at that, is what I'm trying to say. Right. I think most of us have to go get good. And I remember you were talking about Diana. Diana years ago called me out, and I'll never forget it. She goes,
Diana Kokoska?
Wayne, yes, yeah. She goes, Wayne, you're loving people to failure.
Okay.
And what she meant was like, you're being too nice. Like you're not having the real conversation with them that they deserve. Like, and it's like, but you and I have to do with our people all the time, look them in the eye and go like, love you. That's not going to work. Right. Like, like you're screwing up. You're dropping the ball. Like it's not like, so I think that's a huge piece right now.
Well, and the other piece to that is those were actually the easier ones for me because I was able to arrive at, hey, this person needs to hear this sooner than later. Because I hate being the guy on the other end where if someone has an issue, they go to somebody else, they don't come to me directly, and then everyone starts to hurt from it. And then you've got that drama aspect, and I'm not about that. But the tougher one for me is like, think about hiring, right? We're in 130 markets. We're expanding to 50 more. And it's a very small amount of people who will make it in from the thousands of interviews that we'll do. And letting someone down and helping them understand why I feel like they need something else before they interview with us or like why it wouldn't be a good fit. for a while we just stopped doing, but it was hurting our reputation the way, we would just not let them know why they weren't being hired. So I started just like having that hard conversation, and that's a skill, is to like let someone down easy and let them know, especially if they start fighting, be like, no, I can do this. I'd be like, oh, we've done this 130 times, and I'll tell you, like, I've done it wrong like a few times as well, and this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love what you're talking about with these hard conversations, and you don't get it. You're not batting 1,000 on these. I imagine you as a coach with all your pupils still have do you go back and text someone later, like if you feel like it could have been better, if you screwed up? Like, I imagine you're still having those conversations
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it takes, right? It's like that self-awareness and reflection to get better and better at it.
Yeah. Well, what you and I talked a little bit about a book you wrote. I don't know much about it. I haven't read it yet, but I want to know. I'm very interested. We've had a lot of people on the podcast that have gotten to the point where they want to write a book. I honestly think that everyone should write a book at some point. And Michael Mayer was on talking about that. He's like, listen, anyone who's a parent, especially, should write a book. If not
Amen.
For their,
yes.
If not for their kids.
What are we doing? Like, help, please.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love it.
But you got to the point where you wrote a book. I imagine it's helped you, stretch a lot of different muscles, but furthers people's success when they write books. So tell me about your experience writing the book and what it's about.
Man, so for me, writing the book was it was kind of my commitment that I made to God. When I was going through my tough time, like if I'm going to figure out if I can learn some ways to get back up, I'm going to share this with other people. So I wrote a book that was like, the art of getting back up, which is like, hey, here's the steps to get back up. I don't know if they're perfect for everybody, but like, here's what worked really well for me. And it's got like 9 steps to get back up when basically life throat punches you really, really hard. And it's right. It's just a toolkit for people to read and go through. My prayer would be that someone would read it before they hit hard times, because more hard times are coming. And I remember like, a friend of mine said to me one time, he said, man, he goes, I think if my dad would have read your book, he probably wouldn't have taken his life.
Wow.
And it put me on this fire. Like, man, I really want to get this to as many people as I can. And what was, when you talk about writing a book, here's 2 things I would say to people that are thinking about doing it. First off, like, just do it. Like, it's so good for you to do. But the voice in my head was like, man, other people have written better books. Like, this isn't the best book that's ever been written, or whatever it is. And I just said to myself, like, this isn't for everybody, but the people that it is for, it's going to be great for. Like, I'm not trying to write a book that's perfect for everyone. I'm just trying to write a book that and the right people will resonate with it. So like for me,
that's actually what I mean. To that point, that's one thing that I've learned. I've read a few books on publishing, and that seems to be the common thing now, which is like, if you pick a niche, the more niche you can go, the more success you're going to have, because everyone tries to write a book that is perfect for everyone. But if you start with a niche and then they pass it to their friends, and like it grows, kind of like Facebook, right? The difference between Facebook and MySpace. Facebook started, it was just Harvard, and then Ivy League, and now, your great grandma has a Facebook. So, what's the book called?
The Art of Getting Back Up, and you can go to Amazon or wherever and get it. Yep.
I want to get my signed copy.
You just text me your address and then I send you one. That's how that works. Yeah. And if anybody wants it, and in all seriousness too, we have a video series. So if somebody's watching this and like you're at that moment where you're on the floor trying to get back up, or somebody, I have a video series, and I'll give anybody that for free, right? Like, they can go buy it, but I'd rather just give it to you for free. It's like 8 videos on like, hey, here's how to get back up. Here's questions. Here's the things. Here's tools. And seriously, if anybody needs that, just reach out to me, and I'll share it with anybody, because I think it's we all need. It's not a handout; it's a hand up, and we all need a handout from time to time, especially when.
Oh man, I love that.
Moment, you know what I mean? So,
I got an off-topic, off-the-wall question for you.
I'm ready.
I didn't prepare you for, but I'm just curious with your knowledge and all the things that you've done. One thing we've been talking about is realtors with side hustles, and I'm trying to figure out what the difference between streams of income and side hustles are, because it seems to me like streams of income has been historically like this praised thing within business and real estate, but side hustles has had a negative connotation. And I'm here well, I want to get your take first, and then I will share mine. But what are your thoughts on, like, when you're coaching somebody and they're talking about side hustles or streams of income? What's your take on that?
Man, I love this question. There's a couple things that are really interesting when you ask that question. So first off is, I believe that most times a side hustle has a contraindication because it takes focus away from the main thing. And people go, oh, I need 7 streams of income, but they haven't nailed one yet, and they're trying to nail 16. So I think there's a difference between, am I chasing 6 rabbits and catching none, versus what I believe in. Because I think multiple streams of income is important. But what I really believe, what I coach my clients to, is like doing things that are in alignment. Right. Okay. So like Devin, for instance, right. She has her real estate company, and they also do property management because that was in perfect alignment with what they were already doing. Right. Sure. Like she didn't go launch a candy store. Right. Like doing things that are in alignment, I think makes a lot of sense. So for me, it's like I coach people, and then I have a brokerage and a brokerage, right? Like I'm building out my EXP family, right? The people I take care of. But for me, that makes sense because it's not a second job. It's me doing what I'm already doing, just getting rewarded multiple times for it. So it's like a real estate agent that also buys a storage unit facility because they're constantly being asked, where should I put my stuff? Or they have a movie company. Like it's in alignment with what they're doing. I think that's when it makes sense. Is can I do things that are in alignment so I don't have 15 different jobs? And then the other thing is, can I get paid for what I'm already doing? Right. So like this last year, I got my travel agent license, right? Because there's a company that can get my travel agent license. So I get paid now to do what I was already doing, which is book my travel. You know what I mean?
Book your own travel or book other people's travel?
I just booked my own. I just booked my own travel. Right.
Okay.
And then like I got
now, what if someone came to you and said, like, what if I said, hey, Wayne, I want you to book my travel? Would you do that? Or would that take away and distract you?
No, I would say no, but I can give you the link to get your own travel agent license so you can get paid to book your travel.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Right. Like, and by the way, I'm going to get paid when you do that. So, right. So like, that's right. So like do things you're already like, figure out, how do I get paid multiple ways for what I'm already doing? Right. Like you and I recommend books all day long to everybody. You recommend your mic and your camera. Right. So I have my Amazon affiliate link. So when somebody says, what camera should I use? I'm like, here's the link. And I get $2 when they buy the whatever. Right. But like I'm getting multiple different things for doing what I was already doing. So I think that's when it gets really important. And yet for most people, like you got to nail the one thing before you try to take on 100 different projects, So that's when I think the alignment piece is so important.
I got one off the wall question, and then we'll save the rest for next time. How do you coach someone who doesn't care about making money?
I love that. I think that
I know people. The reason, by the way, I know there's people you're coaching that don't care about the money, whether it's because they already have enough, or their spouse makes it, or they're just not driven by it, but they are highly successful or capable of being highly successful. How do you coach someone who doesn't care about making more money?
So I think one of the things that I love about that question is, because I think you and I are really good at this, is figuring out what drives people. And I think people are driven by different stuff. And sometimes we can get in a solo focus of like, people are driven by money, or people are driven by a lot of different things. So until I know what drives somebody, until I know where someone really wants to get in life, like you can't coach that person until I understand who they are. Like it's impossible to coach them. And I think that money is money's not necessarily a motivator. Money's a facilitator. Right. So like what I got to get clear, like, what does the money mean to them, or what were they after? So like for instance, there's people like that you and I know that money doesn't drive them, yet if they are not pushing themselves, if they're not living up to their commitments, if they don't have a challenge in front of them, they feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like they just feel if they say I'm going to do this and they don't do it, like it erodes their self-confidence. It's not necessarily about the money. It's about like, I was the best version of me. I showed my kids what it looks like to go after something big. Man, when I make this, I can go do so I think it's going 4 or 5 layers deeper and figuring out what's really going on. And being okay with what you find. Some people they don't want to make any more money. It's like, all right, cool. What do you want to do? Like, what would be a heck yeah? You know what I mean? So yeah, I think
what I think is funny about that really is most of the time it's actually money that can help them with that thing. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
so often I feel like we are kind of selfish with money. And let me explain what I mean by that, because it's not like greed or anything like that. It's just that we associate how much money we need to live, and then past that we don't really care about making much, and unless we are completely tied into like what we can do with the money that's extra. And for the longest time I didn't have a nonprofit or a charity that I was really tied to, or there's not one singular one that I am right now, but the mission, I mean, for me, is human trafficking. My heart is broken for human trafficking, and now every single dollar past what I need is now going to that. That changes my own, motivations past, just super, like, not even superficial goals, like goals that are necessary, but like the exciting goals of like, okay, every dollar past that is now going to impact other people. And if we're not motivated by money, I feel like we're missing, not motivated by, like, you don't have to be motivated by money, but you should be able to be motivated by what you can do with that money. I think everyone can have that.
Yeah, but money's just like bricks. Like, you can throw it through a car window, or you can build a school, right? Like, life is just better with a big pile of bricks. You know what I mean? But maybe it was Diana that said it, but like, it's selfish to be poor, because there's enough jerks with a lot of money that aren't doing great things in the world, that like, if I'm talking about clients, if you had $1 million extra laying around, like, I know you do amazing things with it. So like you said, it's not about the money. It's about, it's just a tool, right? Like, more time, you can do more cool stuff. More money, you can do more cool stuff. Like, it's just a facilitator.
Wayne, you're good people. Where can we find you?
Dude, on the internet, Wayne Salmans, right? Either on Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, whatever it is. Yeah, Wayne Salmans. And if somebody wants to book a call, then go to pickwaynesbrain.com, and we can have a call and see how you're doing with leading your team, how you're doing in this market, what you need help with. But
and you guys heard it on the show.
You're doing so much.
If you email podcast@realproducersmag.com, your address, you heard Wayne say, he'll send you a signed copy.
I will, absolutely.
So let's test this theory. Wayne, thanks for being on the show, man. We'll have you on again.
And thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.